Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Tech Wire. I'm your host, Senior Editor of Supermarket News, Bill Wilson, and I am here with Dr. Thomas Weinandy, and he is the Principal Research Economist at Upside. His team recently published its annual Consumer Spend Report based on 10 billion retail transactions and 11,000 survey responses. The report analyzes trends that shape shopping behavior, and Tom is here to talk more about some of his findings. So thanks for joining us, Tom.
Of course, it's great to be here.
So, what are some of the findings that surprised you most? Or I should say, what is the finding that surprised you most from your research?
Yes. So this is the consumer spend report. We published one last year as well. And so now we're able to update about how consumers have changed over the past year. And so what we're seeing in the report is that consumers are increasingly uncommitted, meaning they're shopping around at even more grocery stores than they had last year. We're also seeing evidence that retailers themselves are accelerating this uncommitted behavior among customers. And then finally, we're seeing an income divide where we see customers who are higher income earners, they're increasing their spending, while customers who are lower income earners are cutting back.
Do you guys break it down by demographic? Is there a difference between older shoppers and younger shoppers?
We find that income is one of the largest predictors of how customers spend. Age and other demographics, they certainly play a role as well, particularly about what is the stage in life that a customer is at. What we see though is that there is value-seeking behavior, up and down the income ladder. There's value-seeking behavior, for all age groups. So it's really coming down to like what is the best way to be able to reach these individual customers and their individual shopping behavior.
So, Upside establishes the quote unquote uncommitted customer as the new norm. If customer commitment is declining, what is the fundamental risk this poses to grocers?
So this is becoming harder for grocers. Like as customers become more promiscuous and they're shopping around at, more banners, what we see is that, customers are like they need to continue to be won over. So the challenge for retailers is how do you capture this uncommitted customer? My suggestion and what, the evidence that we see in the report is that grocers should avoid some kind of race to the bottom. Because if everyone is trying to do the exact same thing, then grocery is at the risk of becoming a commodity. And at that point, grocers are just going to, compete for who can offer a fractionally lower price. So because value is just up in front for consumers' minds these days, we think it's very important that grocers differentiate themselves in terms of value, not just differentiating in terms of experience or products, but what is the value that they're bringing their customers.
And what role does social media have to play in all of this? The TikTok shop has just gone bonkers over the last year or so. So many people are making purchases through the TikTok shop. They're watching their social influencers who can also play a role in all of this as far as helping grocers sell product. So, what's your take on the whole role of social media?
Social media, like many other digital technologies, it's increasing the competition that grocers are facing. Before grocers, they could, just look down the street and see what are the few stores that customers can go to. But now with online selling, digital platforms, and even TikTok influencers, uh, that's increasing the competition. Where now it's not just down the street; it's in each consumer's pocket. So this is, part of what we attribute to why consumers are now shopping around at more locations. So this digital technology, it does make it easier to acquire customers, and with different digital advertising and specific influencers, I suppose that would make it easier to target like smaller and smaller groups of customers in a way that like a highway billboard could not. So it's making it like easier to acquire, but also easier for customers to leave at the same time.
So, getting back to your study, you argue that grocers may be creating more uncommitted customers unintentionally. Has maximum convenience undermined brand loyalty?
grocers, they always have to offer that convenience and that value for customers. So what I've seen, in the past decade or two is that there's kind of this arms race going on, and it's happening on two different fronts. One is with loyalty programs that now everybody and their grandmother has a loyalty program. I mean, even Walmart is starting to get into this space with their Walmart Cash. And at the same time, there's an arm race going on with online retail, where now customers, they don't necessarily have to drive to stores. Now there are many different retailers that are offering to bring the grocers or the groceries to them. So because of that, that's like also leading to this like hyper competitive to this to again this arms race where consumers have more reasons to leave any single grocer because there are many other options going on, both in terms of value and promotions through loyalty programs, but also through delivery and online pickup.
So let's talk about consumer choice then. Your report listed the top three criteria for grocery shoppers deciding where to buy. Price, unsurprisingly, is always top of mind. But how do those non-price factors show up in consumer decision making?
Yes, Bill, you didn't need to bring an economist on to say that price matters, but I'm here and I'll tell you that price still matters.
Sure.
That remains number one. Um, but I think there's like a limit of how much price can influence. So, for example, we've looked at other areas that matter as well. Price is actually becoming a little less important than it had last year. I attribute this to the income divide, the fact that lower income customers, price is going to be the number one reason that they shop for most of them, and it's hard to get more important than number one. So the changes that we're seeing this year is in some of those non-price areas where it's especially these higher income customers that are shopping more and they have different expectations of what they want. So for example, the second most important factor we found in our report is dependability. Customers, they want to make sure that when they're shopping for a grocery store, whether in person or online, that what's listed as available is available. So stockouts are a continued problem in areas where grocers have gotten better as of late, but consumers' expectations have been increasing as well. Because when someone goes on Amazon, if something's listed on Amazon, they expect to be able to buy it. And that is spilling over into the grocery world as well. And then a third area of what's most important that customers experience for grocery is still coming down to price in a different way. It's discounts and coupons. So customers, they value price itself, but then they also value the feeling of receiving a discount through promotions and coupons.
Your data shows lower income shoppers are spending less on both groceries and dining. Are they just eating less, or what's the story?
Mhm. We see this unique phenomenon where it's both higher income customers and lower income customers that are shifting their share of stomach away from grocery to restaurant. That's kind of like surprising for me. I would have expected not to see that customers, especially lower income, are willing to cut back more on restaurant than they would be grocery. But this is what we're seeing in the self-reported data. Now, I don't believe that this is coming down entirely to customers just eating less or buying fewer groceries total, but they're still spending less every time when they do go out grocery shopping. So, yes, so we also like to include a free text answer in our surveys. And in this case, I asked a question of our respondents of how they're trying to cut back. And there's not a single strategy for how customers are trying to save money on their grocery items. There was just the entire gamut of some customers are trying to eat smaller meals. Others report using more, generic and brand or in more store brand items for their purchases. Others are trying to avoid higher cost items, especially meat came up several times. And then other customers are shopping more or just using sales and coupons. So it's kind of like an all the above strategy where customers are finding the unique ways that they are able to gain value in their shopping.
So let's stay with that topic and expand out a bit. What are the implications of a K-shaped economy for grocers? You're not suggesting that they focus their marketing exclusively on high-income consumers, are you?
No, no. Grocery stores should not, just ignore half of their customer base only because higher income shoppers right now are spending more than they had last year. So it's still going to, benefit grocers to be able to appeal to a wide breadth of consumers. But in the same way where any grocer should not try to advertise and try to create this like one size fits all approach for everyone, I also wouldn't recommend taking some kind of like two sizes fits all approach by, treating everyone as either a higher income shopper or a lower income shopper. Because when I look at these numbers, and so far I've only been talking about the different averages of how customers are spend, but when I like look more closely, there are still many examples of consumers who are, trending against the average. Like even among our lowest tier of shoppers in terms of income, there's still, a sizable number of consumers who say that their financial behavior or that they've been spending more over the past year, even in grocery, and that they think the economy is doing well, despite them earning less than $25,000 a year. So my recommendation is to take a much more personalized approach, to focus more on, behavioral indicators of how people are shopping rather than just demographics, including income.
So, what are some of these behavioral indicators that you talk about?
The benefit of like any kind of loyalty program, I mean, for the customer, they receive the benefit by being able to earn greater rewards or discounts. But one benefit for the retailer is to be able to better understand their customer and to be able to collect data in a privacy preserving way. So that is one opportunity that grocers with a loyalty program have, is to be able to see how are customers, interacting with the app or website. What are the items that are most important to them that could try to convince them to come to their store? So for example, Bill, I've gotten on the protein bandwagon like so many other people right now.
Yeah.
And I have this like protein cereal I really like, but it's kind of pricey. However, if my like if any grocery store in town is offering that on sale, I will go there today to buy it. And so that's like one kind of example of I can be won over with a sale on that one item, and then I'll be able to, like, while I'm there, of course, I'll buy milk with the cereal as well and pick up anything else on my list. So
Right.
that can be a way where it's, targeting customers based on like the shopping history they have with them, rather than just saying, oh, this is, Tom Weinandy, all economists are going to behave this way. Let's give one deal to all economists. Well, that's not necessarily going to work for everyone.
So, this quote unquote loyalty gap is a really interesting concept. What is it about loyalty programs that isn't landing with the customer population?
So I don't know that it's completely that loyalty programs aren't landing. It's just that consumers' expectations have been increasing. So I would describe this as the floor is rising as well as the ceiling. And what I mean by that is that retailers have gotten a lot better with their loyalty programs. There's, offering many more features. I'm seeing a lot of like chat bots integrated into loyalty programs. Offers are becoming more personalized. It's a lot more than, just receiving some kind of like birthday message. So loyalty programs have gotten better. Users have been using them more, but they're also signing up to many other loyalty programs at the same time. So what we're describing as the loyalty gap is the fact that now more customers than ever are saying loyalty programs are important. 86% say that they are, somewhat very or just regularly important for them. But at the same time, only 58% of customers are using a loyalty program regularly at a grocery store. So that gap between those two numbers is describing that missed opportunity, that chance for grocers to still continue to improve their loyalty programs so that they're finally reaching customers' expectations.
So, as we wrap up here, I think our audience wants to know where to go next. If you only had 10 seconds for the grocery CEO, what would you say? Clock starts now. 10 seconds. Tom.
Well, first of all, you should read the consumer spend report because we just finished that, and that's the basis of all this research. There we go. I probably burned too much time there. But I would want to look the CEO in the eye and ask them, do you have a one-size-fits-all mindset? And are you, in fact, do you have a retention and acquisition strategy that is set for all customers, or is it individualized to each customer? Because what we're finding is with the rise of the uncommitted customer, if you don't have a strategy in acquisition and retention that's targeted to them, then you're not necessarily going to appeal to these customers who are shopping around.
Dr. Tom Weinandy from Upside, thank you so much for joining us today.
It was great to be here and to have the conversation, Bill. Thank you.
And this concludes another episode of Tech Wire. Stay tuned in the coming weeks for more episodes. Have a great day, everyone.